A blessed morning or afternoon, everyone, most especially to our instructor, Mr. Roberto Ablao. We are the Group 2, and this is our report on the topic Week 3, 4, and 5. Conceptual analysis. It is a strategy used for examining concepts for their semantic structure. It is also used in history to understand the meaning of an idea or a concept. This is also one of the traditional methods. It is also used to answer some history issues. Contextual content analysis. It is simply an analysis of a text that helps us to access that text within the context of its historical and cultural setting, but also in terms of its textuality or the qualities that characterize the text as a text. It is a method of studying text in its cultural, social, or political content. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I am Evelyn J. De Los Santos from BEd 1A. I will discuss about the external criticism and the internal criticism. External criticism refers to the authenticity or genuineness of the document. For example, there is autopsy report that's been scattered, you've got one copy. You would criticize, is this an authentic document or made by someone to place around? If this really is inside. So, external, you criticize to check if the document authentic or genuine. Again, it also called lower criticism. And then, once the document is determined to be genuine, this the authentic, then you or the researcher need to determine if the content is accurate or reliable. So, you read what is written on the documents to see if accurate or reliable. And that is the internal criticism or higher criticism. So again, external criticism, you ask the primary document. You ask if this is an authentic. So there are in this question, you have to ask before external criticism. Who was the real author? When was it written? Why did it survive? So in her science, it applies to a document. It involves physical and technical tests. For example, dating of paper a document is written on. Example, if the research on the life of Jose Rizal, one of example of primary resource is diary for us to know if the document not authentic. We have to check for the paper, the date of paper, so it involves a knowledge when certain. It's seeking where possible. So, internal criticism, these are the things to have question about the primary document. Um, the ex-witnesses or second account, why was it written? What is the literal meaning of the document? What is the internal consistency? So, it looks within the data to try determine, try determine choose. So, the facts and reasonable to interpretation of the document, it includes looking at the apparent or possible motives of the person providing the data. So, that is the external criticism and internal criticism.
I am Felicity Frey A. Cruz, and I am assigned to discuss the good points of one of the important part of our history, which is First Voyage Around the World of Ferdinand Magellan by Antonio Pigafetta. So who is Antonio Pigafetta? Antonio Pigafetta was an Italian scholar and explorer na naging kasama ni Ferdinand Magellan at isa sa mga survivors na ang ginawa nila yung pag-expedition papuntang Pilipinas. So, Pigafetta's travelogue is one of the most important primary source in studying pre-colonial in Philippines. Ang sinulat na libro ni Antonio Pigafetta na tinawag niyang First Voyage Around the World, this became the basis for the primary source for the Voyage of Magellan or the history of the Voyage of Magellan papunta dito sa Pilipinas and other subsequents na nangyari. It will really became a source para sa naganap na mahalagang bagay during the exploration of Ferdinand Magellan. Ilan po dito yung How He Met Raha Shagu and Raha Colombo, the Magellan Cross, the Sandoguan, and the Magellan Troop versus Lapu-Lapu's troop, and his death in the hands of Lapu-Lapu's forces. So, importante ang pagsusulat o pagre-record ng mga bagay-bagay. Let's imagine kung hindi nagsulat or hindi sinama si Antonio Pigafetta dito sa exploration. Would we know yung part na to ng ating history? Pigafetta's work is great importance in studying and writing of Philippine history.
The bad points of Pigafetta. It was biased in the sense of Pigafetta was applying his own 16th century European sensibilities and cultural values who observed and interacted with the locals of Samar and Cebu. He shows both curiosity and disdain of their clothing, excessive drinking, sexual norms, and strange religious practices.
So thank you, and I am Johnny Evangelio, and now I will discuss the good points of the KKK. The Katipunan was a Philippine Revolutionary Society founded by anti-Spanish Filipino in Manila in 1892, whose primary aim was to gain independence from Spain through revolution. The society was initiated by Filipino patriots Andres Bonifacio, Teodoro Plata, Ladislao Diwa, and others on the night of July 7, when Filipino writer Jose Rizal was to be banished to the Pitan. Initially, the Katipunan was a secret organization until its discovery in 1896 that led to the outbreak of the Philippine Revolution. So, the Samahang Kataas-Taasan, Kagalang-galangang Katipunan ng mga anak ng bayan. The Katipunan is also known by its acronym KKK. Being a secret organization, its members were subjected to utmost secrecy and were expected to abide the rules established by the society. Aspirant applicants were given standard initiation rites to become members of the society. At first, membership in the Katipunan was only open to male Filipinos. Later, women were accepted in the society. The Katipunan had its own publication, Kalayaan, or in English, Liberty, that had its first print on the first and last print in March 1896. Revolutionary ideas and works flourished within the society, and Philippine literature was expanded by some of its prominent members.
Good day everyone, my name is Jaminia P. Karinan from BA Ed 1A, and this is the continuation of the report about Pigafetta Bad Point. KKK, ang kartilya ng Katipunan, has biases, inconsistence, and shortcomings that made the primary source to have bad points on its contents and context. First, Bonifacio Decalogue resembled the Ten Commandments, while Jacinto's cartilla resembled the declaration used in Manila's Masonic Lodge. Another, cartilla asked new members to pledge allegiance to associations, objectives, and affirms with signatures, just like a Masonic document. Furthermore, in cartilla, women were regarded as helpmates rather than a plaything, which suggested it took inspiration from Bible. The adage that an honorable man's word is his bond may be traced back to Cervantes. That's all. Thank you.
Good day to everyone. I am Lizaki Colares from BEd 1A. So I will continue the discussion, which is the proclamation of Philippine independence. The Philippines had been a Spanish colony since 1565. The Declaration of Independence is the document in which Filipino revolutionary forces under General Emilio Aguinaldo. General Emilio Aguinaldo is the Philippines' first Republican president. The good points of this proclamation is number one is explain the colony's right to evolution and help to create a new country. The number two is good point is to become official records and document this proclamation of independence. The number 3 is, it is one of the most important milestones in the Philippine history. We colonized by any nation for hundreds of years, and because of that, we achieved freedom after all the hardship we've experienced. Dahil sa mga paghihirap natin, nakamit ito natin dahil sa proklamasyon nito. Maraming taon tayong sinakop ng iba't ibang bansa. At dahil dito sa proklamasyong ito, na-achieve natin ang kalayaan na matagal na nating hinihintay.
Hello, good day everyone. My name is Melody Eco, BEd 1A. The Bad Point Proclamation of Philippines Independence. During the Spanish-American War, Filipino rebels led by Emilio Aguinaldo proclaimed the independence of the Philippines after 300 years of Spanish rule. By mid-August, Filipino rebels and U.S. troops had ousted the Spanish, but Aguinaldo's hopes for independence were dashed when the United States formally annexed the Philippines as part of its peace treaty with Spain. The Philippines, a large island archipelago situated of Southeast Asia, was colonized by the Spanish in the later part of 16th century. Opposition to Spanish rule began among Filipino priests who presented Spanish domination of the Roman Catholic churches in the islands. In the late 19th century, Filipino intellectuals and the middle class began calling for independence. In 1892, the Katipunan, a secret revolutionary society, was formed in Manila, the Philippine capital on the islands of Luzon. Membership grew dramatically, and in August 1896, the Spanish uncovered the Katipunan's plans for rebellion. Forcing the premature action from the rebels, revolts broke out across Luzon, and in March 1897, 20 years old Emilio Aguinaldo became leader of the rebellion. By late 1897, the revolutionaries had been driven into the hills southeast of Manila, and Aguinaldo negotiated an agreement with the Spanish in exchange of financial compensation and a promise of reform in the Philippines. Aguinaldo and his generals would accept exile in Hong Kong. The rebel leaders departed, and the Philippine Revolution temporarily was at an end. That's all. Thank you.
Analysis of the Philippine caricatures during the American period. So the selected cartoons illustrate not only the opinion of certain media outfits about the Philippine societies and Philippine politics under United States. The cartoons also illustrated the condition of poor Filipinos in the Philippines governed by the United States. So yung pinakita mga cartoons o caricatures, tumutukoy talaga yung sa pananakop ng United States, and also ano nga ba yung lagay ng Pilipinas at mga Pilipino nung panahong sinakop tayo nag-administrasyon ng mga Amerikano.
Continuation of the discussion. I am Ikara Rodessa May. Let's proceed to the proclamation of the Philippine independence. The Declaration of the Independence is the document in which Filipino revolutionary forces under General Emilio Aguinaldo, that later to become the Philippines' first Republican president, proclaimed the sovereignty and independence of the Philippine Islands from the colonial rule of Spain after the latter was defeated at the Battle of Manila Bay during the Spanish-American War. The declaration, however,
was not recognized by the United States or Spain, as the Spanish government ceded the Philippines to the United States in the 1898 Treaty of Paris in consideration for an indemnity of Spanish expenses and asset loss. It contains several provisions that established but also limited full Philippine sovereignty. The treaty contained several key provisions. Recognition of sovereignty. The United States recognized the independence of the Republic of the Philippines and acknowledged the control of the government by the Filipino people. That's all. Thank you.
Hi, muli, this is Cardinal Willie, and let's continue with the Corazon Aquino's speech before the U.S. Congress and its good side. Highlighting the good side regarding on the textbook presented in Philippine history of Corazon Aquino's speech are the following. I have here 5 bullets, and the first is function as the symbol of the restoration of democracy and overthrow the Marcos dictatorship in 1986. Second bullet, Cory Aquino in the presidency put the Philippines in the international spotlight for overthrowing a dictator through peaceful means. Third bullet, Cory attributes the peaceful EDSA revolution to martyrdom of Ninoy. She stated that the death of Ninoy sparked the revolution and the responsibility of offering the democratic alternative had fallen on her shoulder. Cory addressed and introduced us to her democratic philosophy. The fourth bullet, Cory emphasized the importance of EDSA revolution in terms of being a limited revolution that respected the life and freedom of every Filipino. The last bullet, Cory expressed her intention to honor those despite mentioning that the people did not benefit from such debt, which is the $2 billion US.
Good day everyone, I am Vina May Odivera, B.Ed 1A, and for the continuation of the discussion, let us talk about the negative or the bad points of Corazon Aquino's speech before the U.S. Congress, which she became biased, and the speech revealed certain parallelisms between her and the Marcos government. So this is seen in terms of continuing the alliance between the Philippines and the U.S., despite the known affinity between the said world superpower and Marcos. So the Aquino regime, as seen in Cory's acceptance of the invitation to address the U.S. Congress and to the content of the speech, decided to build and continue with the alliance between the Philippines and the U.S. and effectively implemented an essentially similar foreign policy to that of the dictatorship. So, for example, Cory recognized that the large sum of foreign debts incurred by the Marcos regime never benefited the Filipino people. So, nevertheless, Cory expressed her intention to pay off those debts. Unknown to many Filipinos was the fact that there was a choice of waiving the said debt because those were the debt of the dictator and not of the country. So, Cory's decision is an indicator of her government's intention to carry on a debt-driven economy. So reading through Aquino's speech, we can already take cues, not just on Cory's individual ideas and aspirations, but also the guiding principles and frameworks of the government that she represents. So that's all. Thank you.